Welcome in to another Civilization 6 review video. Today, we're going to be reviewing the civilization of Tamar of Georgia. It was my first time playing Tamar, and it was a very intriguing experience. Tamar is one of those civilizations in the game of Civilization 6 that there are people that absolutely love Tamar and love playing her and the nuances of what you can do with her kit. And then there are maybe the rest of the people who are like, Tamar, I really enjoyed Tamar. I actually got one of my fastest deity wins playing as Tamar. And again, you know from my past videos, I don't play for fast wins, but we got there pretty quick on Tamar this time. We did go for religious victory. We didn't do anything like crazy, like try to go for, again, a speed victory or anything. So we're kind of long play religious victory. We played on kind of a unique map as well. So you see that as we get into the game. It was a Highlands map that was set to kind of have like the most mountains I could possibly populate on it, which made religious victory quite challenging because we didn't get some of the stuff we wanted religious-wise. We'll talk about that a little bit and how you can kind of optimize religion for movement as opposed to we were not able to. So we got kind of our slow movement around the map for our missionaries and apostles as we tried to spread our religion. But we had a very unique set of circumstances in this game, including who our neighbors were and how that all went, plus how the map ended up turning out, ended up being very intriguing for us as we ended up in a pretty kind of tundra-heavy settle, which is not advantageous necessarily, but we were able to kind of push through it and get a pretty good victory out using religion. If you know me, you know that I really enjoy religious victories. I find it to be fun because you don't have to be at war with people, but you can still have some war mechanics at play through your religious battles and things like that. Do I think that religion is like a perfect system in Civilization? No, but it also is not in many other of the 4X strategy games that I've played. So I think that I just think it's fun. I think it's an enjoyable way to play. I try to go for different, win conditions. I think that religion is kind of a fun one to throw in there every once in a while. So just forces you to play the game a little bit differently, which I think is always fun in Civilization 6. So let's jump in to Tamar of Georgia and how she played out in Civilization 6. We're here, of course, in our capital city of Tbilisi, and you will notice right away we're right next to a volcano. That can be problematic, and we did lose some population to this volcano throughout the game, but we also ended up with some absolutely glorious tiles around that, which allowed us to have some pretty nice things going on as far as getting some production and food out in our capital city. What you'll notice, of course, that is actually substantially different probably from the last review video I did, which was Age of Steam Victoria, is there's a lot more tiles that aren't just chocked full of things, right? Because our production was just not as high. You're 52 production in our capital city, as compared to the 250-something that we had in our capital in our Age of Steam Victoria game, and as opposed to the, 500 plus production we had in our most productful city in our Age of Steam Victoria game. So again, when you choose to focus different things, you get drastically different outcomes. So you can see, if you were to direct compare numbers to numbers, the game that we just reviewed last week with Age of Steam Victoria, and if you haven't seen that, jump to the previous video. The Age of Steam Victoria video was a lot of fun to review her hyper powerful civilization. But you can start to look at even our final numbers. Obviously, we weren't focusing science because we weren't going for a science win, but we only have 234 science. We only have 248 culture. Those numbers were over 2,000 and 1,000 when we were playing Age of Steam Victoria. Our production was astronomically high with Age of Steam Victoria. And even our gold, 273 gold per turn, we were well over 1,500 or something like that gold per turn when we were playing Age of Steam Victoria. So you can see, we got a religious win aside, right? We got a faster win here playing Georgia than we did playing Age of Steam Vicky and going for a science victory. I would argue that the win condition that is most optimal for Georgia, for Tamar, is religion, just based on her kit, and we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. But Georgia is another one of those civilizations where you can kind of go wherever you want with it. We had a lot of fun kind of min-maxing her religious traits a little bit. Let's jump in and look at those and kind of talk about what that might look like as you might be playing a Tamar of Georgia game. Here are the features and abilities for Tamar. Glory of the world, kingdom, and faith. Combat victories provide faith equal to 50% of the combat strength of the defeated unit. Each envoy you send to a city-state of your majority religion counts as 2 envoys, must have a majority religion. These are 2 drastically different things, but both are religion-based. So you kind of see why I played a religion victory with Tamar. It lends itself to that, in my opinion. Now, the combat victories providing faith also lend yourself to Tamar can be very good, and I have watched people play her very, very well as a domination civilization. That may not naturally resonate, possibly, but because of that faith that you're going to get, and if you go with Grandmaster Chapel, where you can buy units with faith, and you're just if you're at war and you're defeating a bunch of units, you're producing the faith necessary to fund your own war through the war that you're waging, which, you know, you can do that through plundering and things like that. But if you're doing both at the same time, plundering to give yourself gold or production or science or whatever you're plundering, at pillaging, and then if you also go with obviously Tamar's skill, which is 50% of the combat strength of the unit, is also going to you in faith, then you've got the ability to basically self-fund a war indefinitely against anyone who's producing units that you can also pillage from. That is like one of the ways to play Tamar. Obviously, we did not play that way, but that's one of the really powerful ways to play Tamar, is by using that combat victories of faith compared with Grandmaster Chapel, and the fact that you could also, on top of all that pillage, you can really start to boost all of your numbers through doing something like that, and play it more domination based, or domination into another type of victory, which is why I think Tamar can be played to any win condition. If you choose to go to war, conquer a couple of civilizations, pillage your way through them as you do that, you're going to end up with the ability to kind of go in whatever direction you want to, because you'll have pillaged the science or the culture that you need to be able to push towards a science victory or a culture victory at that point, and you'll have way more cities than everybody else, even on Deity, if you're able to pull this off. We are playing on Deity, as I always do, by the way, just so you know. But so you can play Tamar however you want to, based on kind of what you want to do. We didn't go the war route. However, early game, this was really helpful. We were able to fight barbarians kind of across the map, and because we were where we are on the map, which you'll see in just a moment when I kind of zoom out on our empire, we had a lot of barbarians at the beginning, and so we were able to produce faith on the get-go, like early on faith, through just kind of fighting barbarians on the map, which was kind of a helpful tool for us to be able to do as we were getting our faith up and running early in the game. The second trait in that in Tamar's ability, each envoy you send to a city-state of your majority religion counts as 2 envoys. That's a doubling of envoys that you can have if that city-state is following your religion. Envoys get very powerful late in the game through the cards that you put in. I'll show you that in a moment here. And that can result in some really crazy yields, particularly when paired with Kilasani, which we talked about even in the last video. I pretty much don't go a game of Civilization without building Kilwa nowadays. It's just such a powerful wonder when you can grab 2 suzerainities in each of the different types and get that bonus, not only in your capital city, but when you get the second one across your empire. If you never read about Kilwa, read about Kilwa, go get 2 suzerainities of each type, build Kilwa, and win. Like, that's just like, I feel like that's how it is pretty much. It's that powerful of a wonder when you can get enough envoys out. Obviously, with Tamar, if we're going to be doubling our envoys, if that city follows our religion, if we're going to be doubling our envoys, that becomes incredibly powerful. We'll talk about how we use that in our game as well when we get into the map. Strength and Unity is the next trait or ability that Georgia has. When making dedications at the beginning of a Golden Age or Heroic Age, receive the normal age bonus towards improving era score in addition to the other bonuses, and plus 50% production towards building defensive buildings. That will come in handy when we talk about the Siki, which is their, I think that's how that's pronounced, which is their unique building. This is a really unique ability. This is a really unique trait that Georgia has. On its face, it doesn't seem very powerful, and maybe it's not. But when you get the double bonuses, when you get to do both of those, when you have a Golden Age, you can chain Golden Ages together really nicely, and that allows you to have those double bonuses across the board when you're getting both the normal bonus and the heroic or golden, mostly golden age bonus. It actually becomes really powerful over time, and you can see that even if you look at some of our in our game as we're doubling up on some of those bonuses, and we were able to golden age the entire time through. One of the really fun things about playing Tamar is that it hyper fixates you on era score. So if you're somebody who maybe needs to learn era score or wants to play a game where you get to learn era score a little bit more, Tamar is a perfect civilization to pick if you want to expand your knowledge and your repertoire on getting golden ages, because golden ages are hugely important and basically an essential part of her kit. And so you really want to make sure you're utilizing that strength and unity and getting golden ages and chaining those throughout the game. So it's one of those things where you want to kind of get a golden age. If you push a little bit further past that, you're going to start making it complicated to get other golden ages because you'll be using up era score that you could have used in a future era in the era that you're in now. So it's one of those, like, be careful not to go over. Now, we had one era where we pushed over like pretty far because we were spreading our religion and we had the religious one on. The Exodus the Evangelist on, and so we were getting like era score constantly for converting, and we went pretty far over, which made it tough on the next one, but we were able to pull it off and chain goldens throughout. That's something you want to do with Tamar. The Cevs is a really interesting, unique unit. It's the Georgian unique medieval era unit. It replaces the men-at-arms. It gets that plus combat strength bonus on hill terrain, so if you're on hill terrain, like, big wins. Otherwise, I mean, there's no bad thing about it. I mean, it's just like bonus on, it's a better men-at-arms because on hills, which is typically what you're going to try to fight from anyway, right? That you get to play them. So it can be a very powerful unit, particularly if you can get it out even against men-at-arms, if you could be on hills fighting even other men-at-arms. So it's one of those units where like a rush, sure, if you want to, but you can even, they're going to be potent against the other units if you can position yourself appropriately in battle, right? Also, no movement penalty in hilly terrain. We're playing on a Highlands map on purpose because the Cevs was a useful unit for us because of that. And then, of course, you have the Siki Walls, a building unique to Georgia, lower production costs and higher outer defense than Ren Walls that replaces Ren Walls. Provides +3 tourism after advancing the conservation certificate. So you have a wall that produces tourism, and it provides +4 faith, which is really fantastic. And then the final kind of bonus that wraps Georgia all together into a nice kind of tight package. When in a golden age, the tourism and faith are +100% on your Siki walls. So it's an interesting thing. You can build them really fast because you're going to get +50% production towards defensive buildings. The Siki walls are already really cheap anyway, but you have to get to Ren walls to take advantage of this. I think that Georgia actually gets access to these a little bit earlier than Red Walls, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But when you build your Siki walls, you end up with this huge boost in tourism, and moreover, if you're going for a religious victory like I was, in faith. Particularly if you're in a golden age, and now all of a sudden your walls, of all things, your walls are providing, I mean, essentially 8 faith, right? From a wall. Which is fantastic because you're defending your civilization and you're gaining tourism to stave off any sort of push from culture victory from somebody else. And now you're doubling up because of that +100% if you're in a golden age, the value on your walls from a faith standpoint. So all of your cities are inherently producing that +4 +100% if you're in a golden age, which is another one of those reasons why you're chaining golden ages together, because you want those to take advantage for you. Again, you don't really get that advantage until later in the game. So it's one of those, we talked about with Age of Steam Victoria in the last video. She has bonuses kind of throughout the game. Early game all the way through late game. Her kit plays to every era. Tamar, you got a little early game with the faith and the envoys and things like that. And if you're golden aging, a little bit. Tamar is, I feel like, more of a mid-game strength, right? Because once you get your Siki walls in, your mid-game is where you're going to really flourish. You're probably hitting your golden ages at that point. If you didn't early, you hit them then. And so now you're kind of a mid-game strong is what I would call Georgia as far as that's concerned. Not really much of anything that's going to push you particularly like end game or early game necessarily. Nothing bad, but just like you're going to be at your most powerful kind of mid-game when you're playing Georgia. I really enjoyed playing Georgia. I have to tell you, the ability to send envoys at a really rapid pace is something that we optimized and took advantage of. Let's jump into that really quick. You can see our empire. This was a Brazilian city that we ended up getting through just pressure. You can see our population numbers are not particularly high. We played it pretty wide and spread out really far. We ended up with just a really fascinating empire with a huge mountain range running on the side here into the tundra that we were able to kind of play to. Conveniently, we had Nazca spawn down here. I don't think we ended up even putting in any Nazca lines or anything like that. And we ended up on a Roraima spawn. So we were up here when we started, but obviously we were able to settle a couple of cities around Roraima. Hugely powerful wonder that boosts the tiles around it. And so that gave us some really nice yields to be able to work with throughout the game. Of course, unfortunately, we were so far south that we ended up in the tundra and even, in fact, down into the just pure snow quite a bit. This was because we were able to get some pretty great sites out. Like, here's a holy site that's in a mountain nook that's doing, obviously, you can see we have work ethic. We'll talk about the religion here in a second. But we got some nice buildings able to kind of boost ourselves. We focused on that here too, right? We're basically settling cities just to put in, really nice holy sites to further produce that. Oh, well, holy sites and walls, right? Because we're getting a really nice faith boost from the walls that are in all of our cities as well. So we made sure we got all those in. Be careful, of course, when you're playing Tamar. The steel technology, I believe, still overruns your ability to build your Siki walls because they're Ren wall improvements. Somebody in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I'm relatively certain that's true. So just make sure you don't accidentally research steel before you get all your walls in, because you're going to want to have them. You can actually see the walls do look really pretty. They are unique. They don't look like everyone else's walls. So you've got those beautiful Siki walls that you can see on all of our cities. We've got those in everywhere in our cities, which is really nice. Again, we're taking advantage of wonder building when we can, and really just each city was settled with a decent holy site in mind and growth potential, obviously. But we got some nice settles out. We, of course, ended up next to none other than the lovely Eleanor of France, and so pressure on this border was constantly a problem. We actually ended up in a very long war with Eleanor, which actually helped us get one of our golden ages because we were at war, and I snuck in a bunch of apostles, some of which died, but we actually converted a bunch of her cities while we were at war, which gives you a lot of era score. And so that was actually kind of handy for us. But we had a kind of a constant struggle right here. You can see we've stacked our governors over here to put off the eventual loyalty takeover and loyalty pressure that she was applying. So we established this border pretty early. We actually had a little bit of trouble holding it at first, but we didn't end up getting any of our cities flipped, which was nice. So you kind of see how it was a very intriguing game, very interesting layout. We didn't claim too much. This is all we kind of had as we kind of went about everything. So everything played out well for us, despite the fact that the map maybe was not particularly optimized. Again, Roraima kind of made up for the heavy focus on tundra cities, and going for religious victory also helped a ton too, because we could really just look for those sites for cities that were kind of holy site centric, where we could maybe put a market in, put a commercial quarter in, put a holy site in, call it good for the city, let them kind of produce faith for us, basically. Weren't doing much else with them, because in the religious victory, you want to keep pace with everything else, but really all you care about is your faith generation for getting profits out and things like that, right? And apostles. You can actually see our faith per turn was only 673 per turn. And that is a high number. Like, I'm not going to put down Tamar's faith production at all. It was a nice faith production number. In one of my other videos, my Norway video, where we played Norway to a religious victory, which was immensely fun, by the way. If you haven't ever done a Norway religion victory, one of my favorite games that I played in all of Civilization was optimizing Norway for religion. We were producing, I can't even remember, at least double this, though, if not more. The amount of faith per turn we produced when we were playing Norway was astronomical. I don't think we even won that game, probably just as fast. 215, so 214 as our win is probably one of my fastest deity wins that I've had. So this game worked out really well. We played it. Our tempo was good. I think that's key with your religion. is getting your apostles and missionaries out at the right times to make sure that you're taking advantage of certain conditions where, it's going to take a while to get certain places. Here is where we made our biggest kind of interesting plays with Tamar. Our religion and utilizing her kit with the religion to optimize on a few of key pieces that got us some really great faith gains and some really great religion spread as well. So we took work ethic. I almost always take work ethic. Number one, it's almost always available because the AI apparently hates it for whatever reason. But we obviously wanted the production, so we weren't going to put in any industrial zones. You need to get your production from somewhere. So work ethic gets you the production. All you have to do is focus faith. You get production to go along with it. Perfect. Mosque, obviously a really great one for this. Missionaries and apostles get +1 spread. That's huge, in my opinion, for religious victory. There are other ones you can take, but the mosque is really good for this. Papal primacy was the key linchpin of our strategy. When you send an envoy to a city-state, it adds 200 religious pressure to that city-state. Keep in mind, we're playing Tamar. When we send an envoy to a city-state that already has our religion, we get 2 envoys. That's going to continue to put religious pressure on. So now, not only are we playing Tamar, and we're getting, if they're already following our religion, we're doubling our envoy count when we send an envoy, right? If they follow our religion. But when we send an envoy with papal primacy, even before they follow our religion, we're getting 200 religious pressure. Once they follow our religion, we're actually sending 2 envoys per one, so we're getting 400 religious pressure in that city-state. We converted city-states at a very rapid pace. Combine that with the fact that we also have Himiko, and we have Himiko going around the map, adding envoys in addition to our regular envoys, and all of a sudden you end up with this, it was crazy, the amount of envoys we were sending, and we were just pushing our faith everywhere into city-states. City-states were then pushing pressure on other cities around them, and we were constantly pumping more religious conversion into those city-states to keep them following our religion, which was pretty cool. We did name our religion the Sacred Walls because of Tamar. So this was a lot of fun to play around with papal primacy, and sending those envoys into those city-states, doubling those envoys when our religious pressure was just crazy, combining that with Tamar's kit. So never have I chosen papal primacy before. Very fun to play with papal primacy and Tamar. We're pushing a lot of religion just out across the map, which was fun. Now, this last one, we ended up with Holy Order, which is great. Holy Order is fantastic for religious victories. Missionaries and apostles are 30% cheaper to produce. We were trying, and I don't remember which religion got it, but we were trying to get the one that gives them extra movement or reduces movement penalties or something like that, because playing on a Highlands map, it took a long time for us to get our apostles and missionaries out to where we needed to get them, especially when you're converting your last couple of civilizations. So it would have been nice to have that extra movement speed, and we probably could have won a little faster, to be honest. We were generating enough faith that this reduction was not necessarily needed. I mean, it's obviously great to be able to get them out a little faster because they're 30% cheaper, but the extra movement would have been a huge deal for us in this as well. But again, the primary strategy we used was papal primacy, and to that end, I always play with secret societies on. To that end, we did pick owls, mainly because each trade route you send to a city-state awards 1 envoy. So for the entire game, we were also only sending trade routes, pretty much, to city-states, which was getting us envoys there, and whenever we got an envoy there, we were not only getting that 200 religious pressure, or 400 if they already followed our religion, we were also getting that double envoy for the trade routes that we got when we were sending them to those city-states, because we were able to double up based on Tamar's ability, right? So again, you can do a lot of things to help synergize each piece of the game together to create really fun strategies. I really had fun doing the envoy strategy with Tamar. You can see where we ended up. We have a lot of envoys. Nowhere near the amount of envoys we had in our envoy challenge game, which if you haven't watched that video, we played Pericles of Greece quite some time ago. It's a really long time ago. And our sole purpose in that game was to maximize and see just how many envoys you can get in a game of Civilization 6. So if you want to know what that number ended up being, go check out that video. It's also on the YouTube channel. You can go find it in the Civ 6 section. It was the number is astronomical, by the way. So if you want to check that out, you could do that as well. But you can see we've got a ton of, like, look, the numbers are pretty large, right? And we didn't even push on some of these. We just kind of kept the ones that we had. We obviously wanted 2 of each for Kilwa and things like that, but we have a lot of envoys that have been sent out. We have a lot, pretty big numbers in a lot of these different places. And we didn't even do, like, first sends to some of these, which I think some of these we discovered kind of late. We weren't generating, like, envoys at that point. We were high focused on the religious part of it. But we could have had a lot more of this, right, and pushed our other numbers pretty high if we would have even put more time into getting those envoys out. But I think it's really fascinating to play Tamar of Georgia to a religious victory. So if you haven't done it before, I would encourage it. I think it would also be really fun to play her to a domination victory, or at least like an initial domination, like with high face generation through attacking and pillaging. Into like whatever, like once you've taken over somebody or whatever, then you could just transition to some other type of victory. So again, I think there's some pretty decent versatility that Georgia brings. You might lend maybe a like secondary condition might be like culture, right? Because your Siki walls bring tourism in, so you might want to think about stuff like that. There's also key wonders, of course, that you want to grab. In my opinion, Mahabodhi Temple is probably the best wonder or the most important wonder to your religious win condition if you're trying to go for that. So obviously finding a spot for that both has the forest on it, but that's adjacent to your holy site is important. Getting that out, get the 2, so you get 2 apostles from it. That's really the kicker, is an early 2 apostles to be able to evangelize your religion or get some early spread. Obviously very nice. So tons of fun. It was just a drastically different game again than we usually would play. We were highly focused on getting those envoys out and trying to like double up the envoys, get city-states to follow our religion, which you never do. You never play that way. No one ever plays to get city-states to follow their religion. Tamar enables you to have a really great game and do something completely different. I really liked that about Tamar. Forced you to play differently and really kind of step in and just think differently about the game, which I thought was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me for this Tamar review video. I appreciate you watching. If you liked the Civilization 6 content, there is a lot more Civilization 6 review videos from games that I've played over on the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/MadisBoost. We still play Civilization every Monday night on the Twitch channel. So if you want to join us live, you could do that. Or as I finish games, I'll be publishing the review videos and my thoughts on those civilizations here. So thank you for joining us. Next week, we will have some Humankind content, not the Let's Play series yet. That's still to come in just a couple of weeks. But I have some interesting Humankind one-off content that I'd like to share with you. Some kind of review videos of a couple games that I played that will kind of show you how Humankind can be mean to you and maybe cause you to lose your first game ever of Humankind over 2 years, which was fantastic. And I'm excited to share these couple of videos with you. We also tried a really interesting strat in one of them. So you look forward to that on the channel in the upcoming weeks, as well as our next Let's Play Humankind series that will be coming up here in the next couple weeks too. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.